Runs kindly for Morrison. It's Cal Morrison! Just listen to this, please! Spencer takes over. It's Brad Spencer! It's in the back of the net! There's Donaldson driving forward. Cole Donaldson! That is simply ridiculous! There's Tom Lang! Oh my word! Unbelievable! Phenomenal! Incredible! Invincible!
This is Falkirk Daft.
With Behind the Wall and the Falkirk football fans in training.
Larbert once again is navy blue and local bragging rights have been restored in the Forth Valley after a win against our neighbours Stennismuir. That means we are actually champions of the Forth Valley, having beat Alloa, Stirling, Stennismuir. Falkirk are back to being champions of the Forth Valley. The Warriors were put to the Bairns sword. Hello and welcome to Falkirk Daft, where this week we look back at the game against Stenny and chat to our CEO Jamie Swinney about budgets and of course pies, because it's the question on everyone's lips about the pies. Lips, pies, yeah, whatever. As ever, I'm joined by the Ginger God of Pod himself, the one-man band in the main stand. It is Ross Wayne, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. McNally. How you doing? You good?
Okay, I'm not bad. It's not bad. Just retelling the story there, Ross, how I took a full radio station off air for about 8 minutes this morning. We were interviewing Paul Merton, and while we're interviewing, we're also meant to be on air. This is I'm letting you in behind the scenes here, and I hadn't set something on the desk, so basically there was silence on Greatest Hits Radio for 8 minutes today. And you know that horrible feeling you get in your stomach when you've done something wrong? I've had that since then. I'm just like messaging my boss going, you know how the radio station wasn't on? It was actually my fault for doing that. So I'll be looking forward to going
from the public.
Yeah, we got loads of text messages saying you aren't on, but we were in the middle of interviewing Paul Merton, so we didn't notice. So, my fault, everyone. I can't wait to go back into work tomorrow to face that shitstorm. Brilliant. Anyway, so that's been my Sunday. How's yours been?
Yeah, quiet and the most, mate. Quiet and the most. It was a good day yesterday. Obviously, we put Stenny to the sword as we hoped we would do.
Yeah.
And we were able to bask in the glory of group winners on Saturday night. I was out for a meal last night, which was nice as well. And we're just chilling and checking out the memes that were kicking about towards Ayr United. That was quite funny.
We'll get into that once we come to the Stennismuir game, and we're going to look back on that game a bit later on. But let's first of all thank our sponsors, shall we? And thank you so much to the Falkirk football fans in training, who are big supporters of this podcast, of course. They sponsored us last season and they're back again this season. The T8s specifically, we've talked about them before. It's all about making memories down there. Teams arrive as opponents, they leave as friends, they have these bounce games with other teams, and it's a great camaraderie. Get involved every Monday at the stadium, 8 to 9 p.m, or Tuesday, 7:30 to 8:30. You can do both sessions. All the links are in the bio. Get in touch with Ian, get involved. They're always looking for new members to get along and join the bunch. I'd love to go down myself. I don't know if I fit the criteria though. So, but I'd love to get down. I don't know if there is for the training. I don't know if there is set criteria.
I don't think so. I think they've said to us before, haven't they, about coming in and joining them. So we should make a point of doing that.
Do you know what? I need to get down. And unfortunately, my working hours just kind of clash with it. But I'd love to get down. But yeah, if you want to get involved, want to help your mental health, want to make new pals, most of them are Falkirk supporters as well, so get down there. Not necessarily everyone's a Falkirk supporter that goes down there, but it's always just about guys getting together, having a game of football, having a laugh, and there's a whole social side that comes with it as well. So get involved with the boys, and like I say, the links to get in touch with Ian and Dougie and the rest of them are in the links in the bio below. And of course, Behind the Wall are on board with us this season. Stay local, eat and drink global. Falkirk's best selection of fine wines, lagers, craft and cask ales. I love going up to the ale house and seeing what they've got on, or it's the pizza pad now that they've got on there, but they've always got different ales on there, and I always I'm an ale drinker. One of these, I don't have a beard and stuff, but I like a good ale, Ross. You do. become a member of Camera or something like that, grow a beard and write down a little pad, tasting notes and stuff like that. But behind the wall, I have brilliant ales on upstairs, and of course they've got a fine selection of lager, including Ross's favourite tenants downstairs
Yeah.
as well. This week we talked about it last week, but the running buses, and we're talking about this at the game yesterday. Actually, it's such a great deal. You pay, when you go into the pub, you pay £5, gets you down to the game, gets you back up, and gets you a pint. And then for away games, the running buses as well. Dunfermline, I think it's just about filled up. Ross, is that
I
right?
think it's full now from the chat because I was speaking to someone at the game yesterday, and he was saying that he tried to get seats on behind the wall for the Dunfermline derby game, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunately full already. However, I think when we spoke to Brian earlier on, there is limited space for this Friday night coming against Queen's Park. So get in touch with Scott or Brian at the bar.
Yeah, do that. Like I say, we were saying about Dunfermline. It's away games are only £10, unless it's here or Greenock, which is £12.50. And the same deal applies. That you pay your money, you get back to the bar, you get a drink as well. So it's a brilliant, brilliant deal. Definitely be taking advantage of that for some of the away games. But yeah, we'll see down there this Friday. Actually, we're going to jump on the behind the wall bus, have a couple of pints because we're like, right, Ross is going to get finished for 5. I'm on the breakfast show doing Bow at Breakfast this week, so I'll be done. Early shift. And I'm like ready to go whenever. I'm ready to go whenever. I was like, Ross, what time can you get away?
You'll be there at like 3 or 4. I'll be a bit after that, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think Falkirk will be brilliant on Friday night, especially if we win as well. But I think it'll be brilliant. I'll be really busy. There's talk of a 5,500 crowd on Friday night for a game on the TV. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that will be fantastic. Obviously, we're just about at 4,000 season ticket holders. It'd be nice to see if we get to the 4. I think we're at 3,800 something now, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll check that with Jamie when he comes on.
Yeah. We actually pre-recorded the interview with Jamie just a couple of days ago before the Stennismuir game. So yeah, we asked him about the season tickets, and of course we asked about pies as well. So you'll hear what Jamie's got to say that, and the budget as well a bit later on the podcast, as well as looking ahead to Queen's Park as we speak to the guys from Spider's Web podcast, who are the Queen's Park podcast. We'll find out a wee bit about that. I'm really intrigued to find out what the score is with Hampden and what their thoughts are on Rangers coming along and taking basically their home ground as it was set out to be. But we'll get into that with those guys a bit later on. But let's get into the news first of all. Ross, an initiative that's been started obviously with the Kevin McAllister stand being sold out this season, the club have started a ticket resale option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I think is a really good idea. There's probably a small number of people who, for whatever reason, can't get to a game on a particular week, whether it's due to holiday, work, or potentially maybe even illness. So I think that's really good, and it means that there shouldn't really be many empty seats come match day, especially with there being no public sale of match tickets for the Kevin McAllister stand. You can do it for the main stand, though, I noticed as well, which is great. So even if you're in the main stand, which I know is not always sold out, but yeah, I think that's a really, really good initiative by the club.
Yeah,
the other thing is it brings a wee bit. It's not going to bring in like thousands, but I bet you it brings in a couple £100 extra every game.
Yeah, no, exactly. If you think it like a bunch of boys going on into hospitality, for example, so a lot of the guys that we know, like, I'll do hospitality once a season. You obviously do it a lot more than once a season, but yeah, then when you think about a group of 10 that normally go to football together, those 10 tickets are suddenly up for grabs. They're in hospitality. The club wins, so it's just a nice initiative, and it's like, again, just a wee bit extra money for the club. Anything that is, we'll find out if you hear what we spoke to Jamie. Every little will help, because we need to find new cash from somewhere. So just all that lots of stuff helps. Club are looking for volunteers as well. They're looking for roles, including programme sellers, hosts for front of desk, hospitality, retail assistants, car park attendants, pre and post match stand cleaners. My thoughts on this though, Ross, about the volunteers thing. I think as the club progresses and the further up, people should be paid for what they do. I know it's a football club, but I've always said that people should be paid for what they do. Now, I know the club's looking for volunteers to help with these things, and if maybe you haven't got a season ticket this, because I'm presuming you'll get to watch the matches as well. is doing that, and that's the benefit of being there. So if you haven't got a season ticket, this would be a good thing for you. But what I find, a bit cheeky is that people have bought season tickets in, then, because obviously if you're, most of the people that really go week in, week out will be season ticket holders. And then they're putting out, obviously, looking for volunteers. I still think, as a professional football club, and as we progress, now at the time probably, and we spoke to Jamie, money's not there, but we really need to look at it stopping that, and as we push forward, getting these people paid and for doing work for the club. Because, we're a professional football club at the end of the day, but they are looking for volunteers. So if you want to get involved, support our services at falkirkfc.uk. That's just my personal opinion on it. But
yeah, no, listen, I don't disagree. Obviously, things like, obviously, it talks about car park attendance and stuff. Obviously, there is stewards there who you presume will all be paid. I think sometimes, and this is just I think it depends on someone's time of life, right? You might have someone who's a bit older.
Well,
who might just want to volunteer. And then you've also got the younger side who can't actually officially work yet, but they could help the club in terms of getting a bit of experience. And some people just like to kind of help out as well, don't they? But I agree with you. I think depending on what the role is, it would be in an ideal world, obviously people getting paid for it. But as Jamie talked about, as everyone will hear in a minute, they are obviously trying to put as much money towards the first team budget as they can. And I don't know if it's necessarily a new thing. I remember being helping out Falkirk years ago when I was like 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever I was, and you got in, which was your fee, wasn't it? That was your.
See, I think that's fine, but like you say, I guess it is just like if you're maybe retired and just looking for something to do, or it's for the young team, being the program sellers and stuff, and getting into the game, that. And you don't have so I would say if you don't have a season ticket, this would be a good way to get in to see the games, because we have got a cost of living crisis. So if you can't get to the games, volunteering and getting in to see the games, that's fine. I absolutely get that. So, but yeah, talking about other things happening at the club, Midland Bluebird have announced a new partnership. Now, this is a good thing. We don't usually talk about the big sponsorship stuff that the club do, but it's giving Falkirk season ticket holders discounted travel. So again, we talked about cost of living. All that sort of stuff helps out as well. So it's part of the new partnership. Season ticket holders will be able to show the physical cards or app QR code to access a day saver ticket at a discounted price of £5, which means you can get unlimited all day travel within Falkirk. So it's great it's a wee bit of help on match day if you're looking to get to the game.
I think that's a brilliant price, John. If you think about what we've just talked about, like obviously there is 4 or 5 pubs in the town who run buses to the stadium and back. However, that £4 or £5 literally just gets you to the stadium and back again. Whereas as you've said, that £5 discounted price, you can travel about all Falkirk all day. On a match day. So
and it's good to see, I've harped on about probably to most people, it's a local business, a big local business that we're getting involved with, and it's great to see the club getting involved with a company of that size. So hopefully, with that then comes, commercial opportunities as well. So that, that's great work from the club on getting inroads into Midland Bluebird and making that happen, because every little helps.
It definitely does, John. Do you know, if I'm harking back to like a bygone day, though, I would love Midland Bluebird to be the coach operator for the club again.
Oh yeah, it was a belter. I remember the old coach.
Going back to the 80s and 90s, it was Midland Bluebird who were the official coach hire for not just the first team, I might add, but they also the amount of supporters buses that used to use Midland Bluebird as well. But going back to the team, it would be great to see, because I don't know who Falkirk use just now. I don't know if it's a local company or not, but hopefully as we progress, Midland Bluebird might even fork out for one of these personalised buses that all these teams have. As well.
With a big folk, I want that. Let's make that happen. Like Man City,
Absolutely. United had it as well. The cup game. Plastered all over the side.
I get that sorted Midland route, and while you're at it, bring back the circular bus route as well. I don't know why you scrapped that, because the number 90 got you right around where you wanted to be. I remember using that as a kid. And the circular, you can't get the circular. Do you know what? I wouldn't know how to get to Falkirk in a bus now from where I live. There you go. Anyway, I'm an old man, so people are like, "What's a circular?" Everyone will remember the circular number 90. Right, anyway, we promised that let's here now. We caught up with Jamie Swinney, our CEO, just ahead of Stennis Muir game. We asked about the questions that I think the two burning questions. God, I'm going to. The big questions at the moment from the supporters are about playing budgets, if anyone else is coming out. We asked about that. And of course, Jesus God, we asked about pies as well. So here's Jamie Swinney.
This is Falkirk Daft.
With Behind the Wall. Stay local, eat and drink global.
So on Falkirk Daft, special guest now. We've spoke to him a couple of times on the show, but we thought we'd have a wee catch up with him ahead of the new season. It is our CEO and not a bad midfield player, by the way, as we found out in our charity game at the end of the season. It's Jamie Swinney. How you doing, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm very good, John and Ross. Thank you. That was a really unexpected, nice addition to the introduction.
Oh,
I wasn't
mate,
expecting that.
you and Liam Craig were bossing it in that midfield, by the way.
I think it's safe to say that when you're playing with the St Johnstone's all-time appearance holder, it does make playing the middle of the park a little bit easier.
And let's not forget Hall Glen Colt's #1 keeper between 19...
Oh yeah, aye, Hall Glen Colt's #1 keeper, Jesus. Next season, please get along and watch the game, because there was a bit of a horror show at the back, but we won't get into that. Let's speak about.
It was a great day, though, John. It was a great day.
It was
really
good.
It was fantastic, and well done to you guys for organising it and raising money at the time as well. So really positive, and hopefully we can make it an annual one.
Well, let's hope so. Falkirk Football Fans and Train obviously on board with the podcast this season, so they're very keen on a rematch as well, despite all their cheating. Jamie, thanks for coming back on the show. Really appreciate your time as always. Before we get into this season, let's look back slightly on last season. We've caught up with you personally about it, but for you, let's just talk about invincibility, because we don't get this. We'll never tire of talking about it. What did you do that night we became invincible? What was that, or that when that penalty went in, what was that moment like for you when the final whistle blew?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that game at all. I think for obvious reasons, it was one of the least enjoyable 90 minutes of my life, if I'm going to be honest. I didn't think I'd ever feel like that when we've already won the league, but because invincibility was there, it made the day extremely nerve-wracking. And obviously the way the day went, and I'll be honest, see, because all the planning and preparation for the post-match, the celebrations, going up to Manukey, I never actually relaxed until about 10:30. I just couldn't. I was on such kind of high adrenaline rush. I didn't actually relax till about 10:30 when we left the Marquee, went round, got a quick bit of Pecora, then went down to the Graham Hotel for a few more. So, but in terms of the experience or the game itself, Brad putting that penalty away, that'll live with me forever. Absolutely live with me forever. And the feeling and the celebrations after. I think what happens in the rest of your life in football, I think that will be as good a moment and as good an experience as we'll ever have. And I mean that, and I include, going to the Premiership or whatever. And we've been at cup finals, obviously, but I think that's about as special as you can get in football.
Yeah, no, we've talked about it quite a bit since then on podcasts and over a pint as well, and it's definitely going to be a memory that will live long there, absolutely. Jamie, so obviously that was the high of the start of May. It's how's the summer been for the club? So the close season and then into pre-season, where are we at? Is the invincibility, is the feel good factor carried on in terms of both on and off the pitch then?
Yeah, I would say it's still a very positive place to be at the club. John and Paul have got a fantastic squad of players, good backroom staff, and the non-football staff are now, in the most part, we've all been together now for a bit like the playing squad. There's quite a bit of familiarity there and continuity. We've got a great team of people, staff and volunteers across the whole club. So I think we've still got a real positivity, and I think there is a belief. There's a real belief about the club and about the squad in terms of what we can and can't do, and I think we're all really excited because as amazing as it was, you're eager to get back. As soon as the Euros were over, you just can't wait for that first game back. So now we've had a few League Cup games, I think we're all safe to say we're all enjoying it, and we can't wait for tomorrow, and then obviously can't wait for a week today, play Queen's Park.
just like Dad, actually, we're recording this on Friday, just ahead of the Stennismuir game, so we won't know when the podcast goes out if we're going to be in the League Cup or not. During the summer, Jamie, we didn't get the chance to speak to you about this. About the pitch. I spoke to you about it on our podcast, but we've not actually spoke to you about it on Falkirk Daft. Obviously, the SPFL have made their decision on artificial surfaces going forward, and the fact that we're going to have one if we were to reach the Premiership. Has that affected the planning going into this season?
First of all, thanks for subjecting me to you and Cameron.
Sorry, Jamie.
That was
Sorry.
interesting. That was an interesting one. No, not right now, John, because ultimately there is that 2 year period. So if we were to win the league or get promoted this year, we would have a year of having that artificial surface in the Premiership, which would give us, I think, enough time to plan properly to finance it. The challenge would be if we go into the following year in the Championship and then we've very quickly got to turn an artificial pitch into a grass pitch, and that is going to cause some serious challenges, both logistically, but probably more importantly financially. It's going to cause, it's obviously going to be a challenge for us. So right now, John, no, we're going into the season full optimism and giving it our best shot in the Championship. But certainly, going into the year after that, it will have to be something that we have got a plan for, because by that point there'll only be 1 year left on the grace period.
So see, on that then, Jamie, we've obviously not got any immediate plans for it, but as we've always spoken about previously, you always sort of plan sort of 6 to 9 months ahead. So if come sort of turn of the year, we were in a position on the pitch to be looking there or thereabouts, obviously we're all hopeful of that, regardless of like any other topic. But how does that then start to affect the sort of day-to-day business planning?
So I would say for this year, also it wouldn't, because we would go up and have the first. We would keep the artificial surface for the following season. There'd be no need to change that, given how good a pitch it is and good a surface it is. We would take the first year in the Premiership with an artificial surface, and that would give us a whole year of getting the Premiership income, which would therefore make it more viable to then spend £1.2 million on a grass pitch for the following year. But you're right, that the same question at this time next year is a different question altogether, because we can't afford to then just wait and not have a plan, because ultimately we would need to change it in that following summer.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes absolute sense. That makes absolute sense. So obviously that's next summer in terms of a potential conversation. Going back to this summer then. So obviously we talked about it's been you've mentioned it's a busy summer so far. It's been great on and off the pitch. So talk us through where things are at just now, like season ticket sales, sponsorship, things like that.
yeah, so overall, carrying on with the momentum on and off the pitch, I think it's safe to say it's been a strong start to the new season. Season ticket sales are 3,840 odds. 43, I think it was. So, incredible response from the fans. And, without doubt, the highest out with the Premiership by quite some way, and also higher than some of the clubs in the Premiership. So I think that just shows you where how good a response that's been from Falkirk fans. With regards to sponsorship and hospitality advertising, it's all continuing in a positive vein. We did have a really good year last year for all of those areas. And this year, the start so far has been very positive as well. So we're carrying on that trend of really, Falkirk fans really buying into the club, really supporting the club in every single area. And it's early days. We're only 2 months into this financial year, so it's still very early days with regards to projecting how the next 10 months will go. But so far, it's been positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with all that being said, then Jamie, with the increase in season ticket revenue, we've seen the shirt sales with all the Invincible merchandise as well going out. Has the budget been affected this season? Has there been an increase in budget for the playing side?
Yeah, absolutely. We've managed to increase the budget by about 22%. Is where we've got to. But what's probably worth doing is just maybe giving as much, without spending half an hour, just spending 5 minutes just explaining how we get to the number, if that makes sense. So so it has increased by 22%, but then that on its own probably wouldn't really tell much of a story. So if we just have a very quick summary of where we are and where we've been, I think most people, because we've now hopefully now been very open and transparent the last 2.5 years, I think a lot of people will know some of this stuff. So we'll just cover it very quickly. The club has quite consistently operated with an operating loss of between £400,000 and £450,000. That's over a 15-year period. So since we left the Premiership, really, the 9 or 10 years in the Championship, the 5 years in League One, it's around between £400,000 and £450,000 as an operating loss. So that's what we've always operated with. As we know previously, that was covered one of three ways. We either sold a player, we had a couple of good cup runs, or we took soft loans to get us through to the end of the season, then paid them back the first time that we got a player sale or got a cup run. And that was a model that the club had for quite a long time. So it's quite a precarious model, but when you've got a strong academy, that there's at least a little bit of certainty, or not certainty, a little bit of a reasonable chance you'll sell a player. So 3 years ago, we lost 1.2 million. In terms of pure budget numbers, we lost 1.2 million 3 years ago. Last season, 2 seasons ago, the year with the Scottish Cup, we would have lost about 450k. So we went from 1.2 million down to 450. The Scottish Cup clearly was a completely unexpected income source, certainly at those numbers, and that actually turned it into a 13k loss. So that reduced the operating loss right down. This year, they're not fully published yet, so we can't absolutely give the exact number, but we're looking at about a 340k loss from the season that's just passed. So we went from 1.2 million to around about 450 to around about 340. So so we're showing that trend of improving year on year quite significantly. So we've won the league, losing about 340k. Dunfermline the year before won the league and then lost over 1 million. So when you put it in the context, it sounds like a really good performance off the part, but actually in context, that is actually very strong for a full-time League One club. So that's where we are with regards to budget. So what we have to do though, is we've said this all along, and to shareholders and to the owners, the fans, is that we need to get to break even. We need to get to the point where the club can actually break even, because we can't afford to run that previous model we talked about, where every year we are hoping and praying to sell a player, hoping and praying to have a Scottish Cup run, because ultimately there's going to come a time when we're just not going to. Yeah. And we can't rely on somebody just saying, I'll write you a cheque for £300,000 or £400,000. We don't have somebody with that ability to do that. So it's not sustainable. So we must get back down to a break-even budget. And the club's not operated by break-even budget for a long, long time. So it's not an easy thing to do. From a cash flow point of view, because that's obviously a wee bit different, just purely on cash flow. So this is coming on 3 years in the row. So when I started in the August 21, we would have ran out of cash in February 22. We'd have ran out of cash completely in February 22. The patrons in the FSS put some money in, and that got us to the end of the season. So purely on cash basis, that got us to the end of that season. The next again season, the Scottish Cup semi-final season, we would have ran out of cash in about March. So March 23, we'd have ran out of cash. Again, we'd started taking on some loans at that point, but the Scottish Cup allowed us to get to the end of the season. Last year was the first year we didn't run out of cash, and we weren't going to run out of cash because we had a strong budget, strong performance, and we hit all our targets. So we managed to use the Scottish Cup money from the previous year to run through at the end of the season. So from a cash point of view, that's where we are. Unfortunately, it does mean that we've spent all the cash that was in the bank, so we don't actually have cash reserves, which is not a good position for any business to be in. You would always want to have a minimum of, maybe 6 months, 3 months or 6 months cash reserves in any business, and we just don't have that. So what we're doing for this year is we need to run as close to break even as possible. I'm really pleased to say we've just about got a break even budget. But one of the things I've probably said for a long time is, for our club to consistently run to break even, we need to probably always be in the playoffs of the Championship or above. Now we don't feel we can budget for that, so we're budgeting for 5th. We do think we're good enough to be a playoff team. Just to be clear, we think that playing squad and the management team we've got and the fans back, and we can be a playoff team. But if we budget on 4th or 3rd and we don't hit that, we'll end up with another big operating loss. So
what's the difference, just jumping in there, Jim, what's the difference between, say, a 4th, 3rd, when you look at teams like, I guess, Ayr really seem to be rolling the dice this season, Wraith Rovers are another team that you would look at. What's the difference in terms of budget between that 4th, 3rd budget and that 5th budget, Jamie?
Yes, do you mean purely in a football terms budget or in
Just
terms of the
yeah,
kind of what we
in terms of the football terms, yeah.
probably a wee bit hard to say because although you get an understanding for what other clubs are spending,
Yeah.
you can't say for absolute certainty. I would say that when we first sat down to look at the football budget side, we were aiming for a kind of minimum number that we felt would make us competitive towards the playoffs. We've not been able to, and we are not currently able to get to the point where the budget would consistently, I think, have us first or second in the championship. Now, if you take the outliers, if you take, Dundee United and Kilmarnock have won the league the last 3 years, but have probably they've overspent. We know for a fact Dundee overspent 2.9 million, Kilmarnock 2.1. If you take Dundee United somewhere in the middle, you're looking at about £2.5 million overspend. Now we can't run a £2.5 million overspend because the club would just disappear. That would be it gone forever. So I would suggest, John, that we're maybe, on an average year, if you take away the a big hitter or a massive overspender out the league, I would suggest we are still 20 to 30%, maybe 20% off where we'd really, really like to be
Right.
consistently. So we're not a million miles away. As I say, you have to remember that if a club comes down and just spends £3.5 million on a playing budget, then we're never going to compete with that anyway, to be honest with you. But as a rule of thumb, I would say the club's similar size to us, we're probably still a wee bit short of having that kind of that top end budget, to be honest with you.
Right.
So Jamie, see just on that. So obviously, if we have say we were to finish fifth this coming season, there is then the increase in prize money versus the League One, bigger pardon. I think we got something like 110 grand for winning League One, whereas if you finish sort of mid-table or fourth in the Championship, was it not like 600,000 or 700,000 or something like that? So things like that will then impact the budgets going forward. But obviously for this season, you've just mentioned, so we're aiming for a break even. So that's including. So obviously we've been able to give John and Paul 22% increase in the football budget with the aim of breaking even. Is that right?
Yeah, in a nutshell. So as a kind of simple terms with regards to this year's budget, we are projecting to bring in about an extra £500,000. So roughly League One, a really good League One performance to the Championship, mid-table or above, mid-table, fifth place, is about a £500,000 shift. So roughly
Right.
purely income terms, we should be roughly £500,000, have £500,000 more income this year. But because we have this 350 grand operating loss, the first huge chunk of that has to just bring that back to zero. So you have to
Yeah.
bring your operating loss down to zero. And out of the remaining money, unfortunately there is increased costs for the championship as well. So match day costs are higher. We obviously with the cost of living crisis the last couple of years, we've tried our very best to give small increases to staff salaries so that we've not been able to be anywhere near keeping up with cost of living, but we've tried our best to mitigate with 2 and 3% rises as best we can. And there is investment required in the stadium. Unfortunately, there's certainly things around the stadium that we've been putting off that we're going to have to just bite the bullet. From a safety perspective, we're going to have to go and spend money on. So out of the remaining money, quite a lot of that is eaten up, unfortunately, in overheads and cost of sales. So if this is a bit that I'll try and explain. If we purely ran to break even, the football budget would only have went up by about 6%. So we would literally have been, John. So when we were first talking about the budget with John, John wanted to renew the players' contract. So we started this conversation last October, November time, because clearly we can't. John had to have some level of understanding of what the budget was going to be last November time when we started to renegotiate contracts, because he can't go and spend money if he doesn't know what the budget is for the following year.
Mm.
So we committed to a number that actually meant we don't have a break-even budget, that we've got a stretch target in there, that we need to find that money to make it a break-even budget. But the other scenario was losing all those players. The other scenario would be that Callum Morrison's not here, Carl Donaldson's not here. You go through the list, Yetsi, Hendo, Leon, McCann, etc. You go through the list, and these players would simply not have been here. But as well as that, we wouldn't have been able to go and get Dylan Tate, Ethan Ross, Jamie Snedden, Michael McKenna. So we had to commit to a budget much earlier than we'd really like to, before we actually knew we were going to be a championship club. But the challenge we then put on ourselves is, because our budget's made up, you've already got all the all the increases in your projected numbers. You're already projecting higher season tickets, higher gate receipts, higher hospitality. You're already projecting all that. The stretch target on top for us to give John the 22% increase meant that we had to then go and we have to find new money, effectively new money or more money to get up to that level.
Was that the manager top-up fee then? Right, okay.
Yeah. So if you think about, we're short by a certain amount, but we have to commit that to John, because if we don't commit it to John, we lose these players. So we commit it in advance, but we then put pressure on ourselves to say we need to find more money over and above shirt sales, hospitality, etc. So the things we tried to do, John, to bridge that gap was we offered the manager top-up fund. And by the way, a tremendous response from fans. It brought in about an extra £40,000, net of that. So 40 grand net, fantastic, really, really fantastic response. We then did an academy patrons, and we've had about 7 or 8 people, as well as one individual putting on a kind of more significant sum. So that again adds on to that. So the number we're trying to hit, we've managed to eat into that quite a bit. And although we're saying it's not quite break even, it's not a huge amount. We would never put the club in a position where it's a huge amount we're looking for, because that's back to the same problem. So we've managed to eat into that quite a bit. There's still a wee bit to find, to be honest with you. So this season we'll still need to find some additional monies over and above the normal operating income. But we've got a whole year to do it. We have got cup runs. If we have a cup run, that would fill the hole, so to speak. We are continually there's still ongoing conversations, as there always is, with regards to investment. Not that we want to sell a player, but clearly if that was to happen, it's something we'd have to consider if a bid came in. And we are consistently looking at new monies. We've actually got a CrossFit gym now in the North Stand. So that's a new income rate. That's a new source of income that we've never had before. We started the lotto last year again. So we won't settle with our commercial income we've got. We'll continually to try and not only break targets, but also try and find new money, because what that allows us to do is give it all effectively into the football budget. So we'll continue to do that. And what we do every year is we review it. Every month we review. And as we've managed to do the last couple of years, if we get to a point in the season where we are performing above expectations and budget, we can consider a little bit of a top-up into the manager's fund. And we have done that, obviously. Last year, we've done it through selling shares. Now, unfortunately, there's no shares left to sell. But if you remember this time last year, we sold about £20,000 of shares. And we gave that directly, plus the FSS increase. We gave that, the FSS plus the shares allowed us to get Ethan Ross, allowed us to get Leighton Bisland. Now, as I say, there's no shares to sell, so that's one avenue that at this moment in time is not available to us. But there's still other options for us to try and do that. So that's how we got to the football budget. I hope that makes sense. So there's still a bit of money for us to find, but ultimately we had to commit to John to give him the best possible opportunity to get new contracts and to go and get guys like Dylan Tate and Ethan Ross to give us a really strong, I think, a really, really strong group of 20 players that we've got, who I think are, can be very competitive in the upper half of that championship.
Jamie, we've obviously said that in the last couple of podcasts, that is one of the big things from last year is the fact that we have got the continuity from last year, because everyone knows what the players can do. The players they all know each other. They're all, as you said, we've signed Jamie Sneddon and Michael McKenna and stuff. So it is a strong pull there. So obviously, just going back to one thing you mentioned about the potential of a cup run, or across the season we're in 3 cup runs, 3 cups. Thinking about the current cup that we're in just now, so the Premier Sports Cup, we're obviously doing this in advance of the weekend, so we don't know how we're going to get on there. But should we progress, and this might be a question you might not be able to answer definitively, but should we progress, does that then mean that potentially there could be some budget to the football side of things between now and the end of August?
Yes, and a short answer, yes. As you say, there's a whole bunch of permutations with regards to whether we actually do qualify, and then if we do qualify, who do we get?
Who do you play?
So the first thing we would do with that is we'd fill that hole. So the remaining hole that's currently there, it's not a huge hole, but the remaining hole would fill that first and foremost.
Are you able to share roughly how much that is, Jamie, or is that?
Yeah, probably not, I don't think. But all I would say is it's not like a six-figure sum, right? So it's
Okay.
not like we're sitting here with a huge number to find. So what we would do first and foremost is this would be, as you say, unbudgeted income, right? But then it would first and foremost, it would fill the small hole that we've got left that takes us up to the break-even number. So then we square the budget off. Once we square the budget off, we absolutely then have got monies that we then didn't necessarily project. So depending on how much money that is, we would always consider putting it into the football budget. Now, one thing we've not been able, one thing we have done the last years is top up the football budget. One thing we've not been able to do is invest it in other areas because we absolutely prioritise the football budget above everything. So we'd love to do more. We'd love to be, building a recruitment analysis department. We'd love to be restarting the academy properly tomorrow. But the reality is we have to put every available penny into John's budget to give us the best possible chance. So as much as we really want to do some other things,
Yeah.
if we had a surplus £100,000, would we spend all the £100,000 on the football budget? Probably not. But if we're going to spend anything anywhere, it's very likely to go into the football budget because that's the bit that makes the biggest difference. So the answer is yes, Ross. And if you go through, you could have you get 20 grand extra prize money, right? So we, your minimum for going out in the group's 30,000. So we've budgeted on 30,000 already. We then go through, you get 50,000. So you're guaranteed 20,000 more. If you're playing Ross County away, the reality is the gate receipts from that game would be £10,000 or £12,000. So it's not really going to make a huge difference. If you're playing Celtic or Rangers away, throwing the TV money, it could be up to £250,000. So there's a massive sliding scale between 30 grand up to about £250,000. And therefore, everything would be dependent on the draw that we get. So hopefully we get through because we've started well in the League Cup. I think we've performed really well. Excellent against Dundee United, really good against Ayr as well. Done the job at Bucky. If we can win the game against any, I think we would deserve to go through. And I hope that's we're all looking forward to a last 16 tie at somewhere, whether it's at the Falkirk Stadium or elsewhere.
So you would expect your door to chap on Monday morning should we get Rangers or Celtic?
Oh, absolutely. Look. One thing about managers is managers would spend every penny you give them. So if there's more money, managers will always spend it. So I would expect. I mean, the really positive thing is when 3 years ago, going back to that really difficult season that we had, we've been able to increase the overall football budget by about 50%. In that 3 year period. Now it was quite low back then, but we've managed to increase it year on year. So we have continually put more money into the football budget, and we'll continue to do that because that's what we've got to do. We've got to get the football budget up to the highest possible sustainable level that allows us to compete as a minimum at the top end of the championship, and then hopefully compete in the Premiership.
Yeah, you can hear from John. Reading in the Falkirk Herald this week, he seems a bit frustrated. One of the quotes, I'd like to have a yacht and a Bentley, but you can't always get what you want. He seems a bit frustrated. I've heard him mention it in a couple of interviews, Jamie, and obviously, like you say, managers are always going to be chapping on your door looking for more money. I think, when the frustrations from the fans' perspective is, we put in, to the manager's budget, and you've explained what's happened with that now. But I think from the fans' perspective, we were expecting more. We've seen obviously, and Dylan Tate and Ethan Ross. It's a strange one because they're like old toys. Do you know what I want? We want new shiny toys to play with, but we know how good that Ethan Ross and Dylan Tate are. So it's almost like they're not viewed as new signings. So then then the supporters like us are always going, oh, it's just Jamie Sneddon and Michael McKenna. That's all we've brought in. So I think there's a deal of frustration from the supporters about when they put into the management top up fund, they were thinking, oh great, that means on top of what we've got, we're with Tate and Ross or whatever, because we expected them, we're going to have a couple more, but that's not going to be the case. I'm presuming, and like you say, unless we get that cup run, that'll be our recruitment done and dusted.
For the time being, John, yeah, the budget is spent. I know John said that a few times, but the budget is absolutely spent. But to be honest, if it hadn't been for the manager's top up and the increase in FSS, we wouldn't have actually been able to get Dylan Tate and Ethan Ross. We would have John's last two signings would have been loan players, and I'm not by any means dismissing that couldn't have still worked out, but we were able to go and sign two, I think, high level championship players, and that was thanks to the manager's fund. So without it, we would have been in a much kind of weaker place, to be honest with you. And I think John's right about our current budget, if you think about the last three clubs that have won the championship have overspent by about 2.5 million. So we're on paper, if you strip it back, we're at least £2.5 million out from where a club like, say, Dundee were, or whatever. So that does make competing at the top end of the championship difficult. And I think it's safe to say there is 2 or 3 clubs right now in the championship who are
rolling the dice.
They are absolutely throwing the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah.
It's maybe not to the same level as a Dundee United, because that's a different kind of size of club altogether. But the clubs that are throwing money at it are overspending what they've actually got, whether it's via money that they've got from the parachute payment, etc., Livingston's case, or whether it's from a wealthy owner. There's without a doubt there's budgets out there that would be higher than ours, and it's based on somebody being able to overspend, help the club, allow the club to overspend. So I get the frustration, and we would, if we're being honest, John, even when we got John up to the minimum level that we'd like to get to, which we felt was about kind of competitive for a playoff, even then we all said it's probably still a couple of players light on where we really need to be, which would be another couple of Dylan Tates. Could we have, if we had another decent bit of money, we would have given it, and we would have been able to maybe go and get to 22 players, but instead of signing, maybe a couple of cheaper options, to go and sign players like Cole Donaldson, Brad Spencer, Calvin Miller, to go and sign players of that standard would probably take us from where we all feel at the moment, which is I think we all think we're absolutely competitive for a playoff, but we're probably 1 or 2 light of maybe really going out and winning the league. However, I would say that I think our starting 11 on paper is as good as anybody.
Yeah. I guess when it comes to what we've seen in recent weeks, so it's when it comes to those injuries, when we saw our entire back four and we're shifting. I mean, luckily it's the League Cup, but like you say, that could be really important for us going forward. But it's that's when we were very lucky last season. But in the start of this season, it's been like, God, it's just been chop change. But like you say, I mean, it is what it is. I'm guessing if we want to have a club, we've just got to grit our teeth. Hopefully, we can make that 5th spot.
See when Man City come in and bid 15 million on Keelan Adams, we'll be fine. Yeah.
What a start! What a start that.
We will tell them 25 or nothing, Ross. Is what
25 or nothing,
25 or nothing. No, I think it is worth mentioning. You guys have asked it, and I know we've answered. Previously, Gordon, God rest his soul, and Keith, and the guys have mentioned it. But we are absolutely consistently speaking with potential investors. It's been ongoing for a good while now, with different some come in and drop off quite quickly. If you look at the situation with Motherwell recently, they thought they had maybe found somebody that was willing to come in, and it all kind of unravelled. Obviously, you've got Hibs who have went down a different route where they've got money coming from a club down south, but already there's friction in the news, and that there's comments getting made in the media which don't look great. I think the key thing for us is we've worked so hard to get fan ownership. We've worked so hard over the last 2.5 to 3 years. Everybody pulling in the same direction. We have now got the club back in the championship after an invincible season, and basically able to break even. Now, bear in mind, in the championship previously we were losing 450k regularly. So to get to that position is incredibly positive. Now, will we need a bit more to make the next step? Quite possibly. And that's why these talks with potential investors will continue to take place. And if the board think there's somebody who absolutely has the best interests of the club at heart and is able to come on board and support fan ownership, then the first people that will hear about it will be the shareholders, the FSS, etc. Because ultimately, anything like that would go to the shareholders to say, we think we've got an investor here. We believe he or she's the right person for the football club. Will you endorse that? And if we get to that point, great. But what I don't think we should do, and this is my own thoughts, is simply after 2.5 years of really hard work, is simply hand the keys over to somebody, for 50% ownership, who basically then just runs the club the way he or she wants, and we've handed the keys over to the football club. I don't think that's the right thing to do.
I think a lot of supporters would 100% agree with that, Jamie. But surely, I mean, we've not talked about the most important thing. We've talked about budget. Surely the budget's going to increase with the amount we're charging for a pie now, Jamie. Because, I mean, that's the talk of the stadium now. Come on, what's happening with the pies, Jamie?
Yeah, I wonder if this would be second. And I had this down as a second topic. I had football budget number one as a guest, and I had I had pie cost as number two. No, on a serious note, as much as there's, we're making a wee bit of light of it, though there has been a considerable increase in the cost of the pies, etc., and therefore it will absolutely make it less affordable for people. Some people out there who maybe are struggling, that will make it harder. So we don't want to make light of that in terms of not accepting that the prices have risen quite sharply. What I thought I would do though is just explain a wee bit about how we got to Pie Sports and choosing Pie Sports as our catering partner. Now, people might still at the end of this process go, I'm still not giving them a penny. Or they might actually say, well, you've made some really relevant points here. So first of all, our fan survey we do every year, one of the areas that has been highlighted, so everything else has trended upwards, really significant improvement in every area of the club, but one that sat quite stagnant was the kiosks. Now, we have to take that on board. We have to listen to that feedback. The second thing is I did a consultation. I spoke to Rafe Rovers, Dunfermline, Partick Thistle, Motherwell and St Mirren. So I picked, kind of 5 clubs that I felt were kind of relatively comparable size to us. And off record, I asked them, how did their deal work with their kiosks, and ballpark, what did they make of their kiosks, without expecting them to tell me every single bit of detail. So what they were able to do and share with me, it quickly made me realise that we were only making a very small amount of money off our kiosks, unfortunately. Now, this wasn't anybody's fault. This was a historical deal from about 5 or 6 years ago. That COVID had affected the deal as well, and Stadium Eats had managed to help us out significantly coming out of COVID and everything. So it's not a criticism at all. But what the way the deal was shaped was simply a rental agreement. So we were getting a set fee that was a very small number in comparison to what our competitors are getting, because they had different types of contracts. So we said, well, we need to get, as a minimum, be getting the same level of return as somebody like a Dunfermline. If we're going to compete with these clubs on the park, we need to be making sure that every single commercial line, if anything, were at the same or better than. So went out to tender, and Pie Sports got really, really strong reviews, and I put in a really strong tender. And I think these are the bits that might help fans understand a wee bit. So not only the football club getting a much better return, and it's also based on how many people come into the ground. So if we have a bigger crowd and bigger crowds than expected, the club gets more money. Whereas last year that wasn't the case. So despite all the increase of more fans, we didn't actually get any more money in there. So what Pie Sports have done is they've taken a 5-year contract. They had to strip the kiosk right back, and they've spent 130 grand over 5 years. Now that's on everything from new machinery, servicing, cleaning, painting, branding, every single thing. They've actually redone the whole kiosk. I think a lot of people might have seen the kiosk. They look a bit different, the way they operate, etc. So they've committed about 130 grand into that, which is a huge investment. I'll be honest, one that we would never have been able to make as a football club ourselves. And that is, but through time, they need to make that money back, obviously, and they make it over the course of the 5 years of the contract. The other thing about them is they pay all their staff over the minimum wage. So they actually, pay their mostly young staff. They pay them all more than what they need to, and I think that's important as well, that they are looking after their staff. So by putting all that investment in, by the club getting a far better return, unfortunately, the one thing that has to move is the price point. Unfortunately, so the price point is a lot higher, but overall, it is absolutely the right deal for the club, because we would not have been able to operate the next 5 years with that, without that level of investment. And some of these things they had to do were actually linked into the EHO, which is the annual kind of food safety certificate. Some of these things were required. They actually had to do certain things that cost money to get the kiosk up to a higher standard. So overall, we do apologise for the increase, but at the same time, we hope fans understand that this allows the club to get a much better return, but also allows us for the
bigger
next
piece of the pie, Jamie.
Absolutely, a bigger piece of the pie.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
I've just came up with it there just now. But I hope that has answered everybody's questions about pies. People are writing to their MPs about this, Jamie. We're on Pie Watch here on Falkirk Daft. By the way, £3 for a pie at Steny during the week. I've been informed by Rob Fleming, so don't worry, we're over it. We're keeping comparative. We've got a pie chart going on. See what I've done there. So we'll be keeping that going throughout the season. So, but I'm glad glad you've explained it, because it's everyone's budgets and pies. That's all we've went invincible, so now all we talk about is budgets and pies. So there we go. All my questions have been answered. Ross, have you got any further questions for Jamie?
No, I don't think so. He has done the one thing I hoped he would do today, though, which he's clarified that should we progress to the next round, the football budget will go up, because I had an off-the-cuff conversation with John McGlynn and he said you wouldn't say that, and you have said that. So I don't know if you're going to give me a bottle of beer or a pint or something, but you've said it, it's recorded, we're good to go.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, listen, Jamie, thanks forever for your time. You're always transparent as ever, and we really, really appreciate that. And fingers crossed we can get through the cup, and, we'll take someone else, we'll get Rangers and Celtic in the semis or the finals, and then we'll make our money there. So all will be good. But fingers crossed for Saturday. Jamie Swinney, thanks as ever for joining us on Falkirk Daft.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Well, by the time this comes out, you'll already have enjoyed it. So we'll speak to you soon, guys. Thank you.
This is Falkirk Daft.
With Behind the Wall and the Falkirk football fans in training.
So interesting stuff there from Jamie. Ross, again, my thing is, my arc with it, we got the manager top up the funds, and I asked him about that, because I don't think it was made quite clear that this would, because it funded pretty much Ethan Ross and Dylan Tate, the manager. From what I'm kind of reading between the lines there with Jamie, I thought, when we asked the managers, would get more than that, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Of course, we are through to the next round of the Cup, though, and depending on the draw, which we'll hopefully hear, because we're actually recording this round the draw just now a bit later on. Hopefully that means we can look into, getting a couple of extra bodies in, because if we could up that squad, as Jamie says, from 20 to 22, that would be ideal.
Yeah, no, it would be. I think we're all now hopeful of a decent draw. As Jamie said, it would be not the worst draw in the world to get Ross County. He obviously used Ross County as an example. It wouldn't be the best draw from a financial perspective, but it may be the better of the draws for actually getting through.
Yeah.
But that's not a slight on Ross County, because they are very, very good. But some interest. I know we're going to talk about the cup, but some interesting ties, some interesting possibilities. And as you say, if it brings in the finance, and I'm sure, as we joked about, John McGlynn potentially might be chapping on Jamie's door tomorrow morning to get some extra funds.
I'm sure he will be. If you read that interview in the Falkirk Herald, I'm pretty sure that'll be the first person turned up at his door if we were to draw Rangers and Celtic. But we'll find out actually live on the podcast a bit later on what the deal is with the Cup, so I'm looking forward to that. Let's look at, however, how we got there into that draw. We got there with a 4-0 win over Stennismuir. Callum Morrison, Ross McKeever with a double. We'll speak about that in a minute. And Big Hendo as well. 3,000 Bairns turning up for the match, which was really, really good, actually. It was, what was the attendance for Dundee United? Was that more than...
the overall attendance for Dundee United was 3,300, but
they brought a big... they brought a bit really big. They pretty much filled the North Stand, didn't they?
Well, yeah, 3/4. So realistically, that was an extra 600 or 700 Falkirk fans yesterday, which is testament to how well we've done in the League Cup. Because, and as I think Jamie Swinney actually put this on Twitter last night, that's actually a very, very good League Cup crowd. Because normally you don't hit that. You hit a couple of thousand max. So that is a fantastic crowd yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was. I had yesterday, my wife's away this weekend, so I said to my daughter, I said, Ailey, do you want to go to your pals while I go to the football, or do you want to come to the football with me? And then she goes, can I bring my pals? So I took 3 11-year-old girls to the match yesterday, much to their enjoyment. I kitted them all out. I got Ailey got a small Falkirk strip that I've got, so she wore that. And I got the other girls Falkirk scarves, so they were all kitted out and there. However, during I think it was a bit disconcerting after 10 minutes when she turned around and said, "What colour are Falkirk playing in?" So. And then when I asked her at the end of the game, I said, "What was the score?" She went 6-0. I was like, "No, it was 4-0." But
yeah, it would have been nice.
Anyway,
yeah, it would have been nice.
Young Bairns in the making, and she enjoyed herself as well. 4 changes to the side going into the game. Gary Oliver coming in for the injured Aidan Nesbitt, and a couple of changes there. Cal Morrison coming back into the side. Added Keelan Adams after his flu sickness or diarrhoea, as we found out last week from John McGlynn. And Cole Donaldson straight back in, to trained all week, and he was straight back into the team with actually Leon McCann on the bench as well, which was great to see. Still no sexy Tom though I did spot him up the back of the stand and on the pitch at full time, so it was good to
You
get.
say you spotted him, you were following him about.
Yeah,
Let's
well,
not
obviously.
kid ourselves on here.
Well, obviously. Obviously, the couple of changes then, Finn Yates, Alfie, Ethan Ross dropping in onto the bench as a result of those changes. But yeah, strong side, Ross, and that we're getting close to what I think the starting 11 will look like come Friday.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I thought it was a really encouraging lineup. Attack minded, definitely going for it, which we did, and that was very evident from the first minute or so. But great to see Gary Oliver getting a chance in the Nesbitt role, because he has come on in many sub appearances and
he did play very well, Gary Oliver, yesterday.
Well.
His link up play was excellent between the midfield and the front three.
No, he definitely did, and I'm sure he'll be given John food for thought for next Friday. Morrison, brilliant to see Callum back. As John keeps mentioning almost in every interview when he was injured, you miss a player who has been your top scorer for the last 3 seasons. So it was great to have him back. And big call coming back in for his first game of the season. It was great to see.
He looked really comfortable, like he hadn't missed a beat.
He did. Him and Hendo had a brilliant partnership yesterday. And as I know I said this on social media earlier on, and you know how much I'm a huge Finn Yates fan. I think the boy is absolutely fantastic, and he's going to have a massive future with us, hopefully for a long, long time. I do like Keelan Adams at right back, and I thought he had another really good game yesterday. I thought he did fantastically well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the first chance we actually had was Cole Donaldson and Keelan Adams linking up down that right hand side, and obviously Keelan Adams hitting a strike, which he seemed to give a lot. I think we've talked about it before, that John, and we spoke about John McGuinn about this, about that physicality, and going into the championship, we're going to need that. Keelan, obviously, in terms of height, in terms of physicality, is a better option than Finn at that right back, I'm guessing, if that's what John's looking for, as is Sean Mackey on the left hand side for Leo McCann, because they're big, they're tall, they're good in the air, they're physical. And we saw Keelan Adams, just in terms of his pace, getting forward, he looks more natural. We spoke about that during the game, Ross. He just looks more natural in that right back area. While Finn obviously was converted from that midfield into that right back. And it was good, obviously later on when Cole tired, they moved Keelan into the middle. And I think that's been done purposely just to keep making sure he goes in there and slots in there, because we might need him, as we spoke about. If we've got that squad of 20 and injuries and suspensions, and we still don't know when Tom's going to be back.
No.
We might need again to keep using Keelan in that centre half. So I think that's quite intentional by John McGuinn, just to keep trying him out there and just getting him used to that position.
I think so too. Yeah, he slotted in really well at centre half for the sort of last 15-20 minutes. Obviously, Cole probably 65, 70 minutes was a good marker for him. It was his first game back as well. I'm sure he'll be, hopefully, no ill effects after the game, and he'll be fit and ready for next Friday night. But yeah, we've now that was a big back four yesterday in terms of stature, and we know John likes big guys at the back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, that sounds really weird, but he does. There's no other way of saying it, is it? He prefers large men, right? And
at the back.
Yeah, in the rear. And they were all fantastic. And I actually think that will be our starting defence against Queen's Park. Even if Leon is fully fit, I still think it'll be Mackie left back, Hendo and Cole at centre half, and I think Keelan Adams will start at right back.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Callum Morrison we talked about there, and obviously his importance of Callum Morrison. Yesterday he did what he had to do. He did Callum Morrison things. However, when he broke forward in that first 20 minutes, and he was 1-on-1 with the keeper, and it was just a powder puff shot with his left foot. He had a couple of those. His couple of those with his left foot. And we were talking about why the all-star of trying to go around a goalkeeper seems to be forgotten about now. When you get into these areas to hit them, and we had one later on with Callum as well, where he obviously hit the bar. Yeah. But I don't understand, and I heard Gary Lineker talk about this, why strikers or why forwards don't try and go around the goalkeeper, because even if you get, there's a good chance a goalkeeper might give away a penalty as well, and get sent off if you try and go round a goalkeeper. And it seems to be a lost start now. I don't know if that's the way that people are getting trained now. It's like, if you're one-on-one with a goalkeeper, don't let him set himself or come to meet you. Hit it first time. But it just seems to be a lost start now. And I thought he had 2 opportunities in that half to do that.
Yeah, 2 big opportunities. The one you've just mentioned, and then he obviously has an absolute thunderstrike against the bar, and it doesn't go down and in. It kind of comes back out.
The thing is, though, we're not having this conversation if it had went in. If it had went in, rather hit the bar.
Callum, you'd rather have him inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in, and he is by, and that's there's a reason why he's in the top sort of 5 or 6 strikers in the top for the top goal scorer odds for the league this season, and he will be there or thereabouts again, obviously alongside Ross McKeever with his 30.
Yeah, no, well, of course. Well, Ross McKeever getting 2 goals yesterday, and Callum obviously opened the scoring with his penalty, well taken. But you just thought after the chances he had and then missed, you thought when he stood up to take that penalty, you're thinking,
oh no,
no. But
we shouldn't have doubted him though. We shouldn't.
Absolutely confident penalty, absolutely slotted it past the goalkeeper. But I keep going back to Brad Spencer after he scored that one against Alloy, which just went into the top end. It's like 2 very confident, but Callum's always got to grab that ball first, and he will be on the penalties, I guess, until he misses.
You would assume so. Yeah, you would assume so. And it was a deserved penalty.
It was absolutely. I watched back at the time. I kind of missed it, but I looked back at on the highlights. And I went, "Oh God, that was a penalty." Aye, Sean Mackey did very well. By the way, he was kind of in a very unusual position for Sean Mackey, and he won the penalty really well.
No, he did, and they were a bit dirty for quite a bit of the game.
There was a lot of yellow cards dished out to Stenny. They were pretty dirty, but I mean, I think that just goes to show how much we dominated the game, and how frustrated that Stenny actually got. That in a derby game, you expect. For them, it was a big. We talked to Craig Telfer last week about the derby aspect of it. A lot of Falkirk supporters listen, but Stenny, but for Stenny, obviously, it's a big game for them.
Yeah.
So, maybe that came into it, but we were well deserved the 1-0, we well deserved the penalty, and then we went 2-0 not long after it. Hendo. Back post, which we saw that for his goal as well, just in at that back post. Hendo done that so many times last season. When you think about the goals against Anne, when you think about the goals against Ayr, he's always there and thereabouts, Hendo at that back post, and he does so well, and he gets up so well. I mean, Ross, I don't know if it was going in, but Ross McKeever, obviously, striker's instinct, gets it in the back of the net.
Yeah, make sure of it, because you never know what could happen. And obviously, it did look as if it was looping in from Hendo, but you never know what if a defender might have stuck a tall leg out and cleared it. But Ross did the right thing, which was just making sure. I'm sure Hendo and Ross had a conversation about it at halftime about the goal, but splitting the goal bonus maybe. I don't know, but
yeah.
Yeah, but I know really, really well worked goal again, and the first of the day for Roscoe.
Yeah, so the 2-0 in at half time, and when you went in at half time, Stenny didn't offer a lot. I mean, looking actually at the stats, possession wise, Falkirk 69%, 23 shots to Stenny's 4, 13 shots to 0. And for Stenny, 9 shots off target, 3 to them. I mean, it was a very just dominant display from Falkirk.
It was. It really, really was. We definitely deserved everything. We were just a couple of goals short of where we probably felt we needed at half time. Sorry, not needed, because we were on course at that point. Ayr, I think, were still level. So we were in a decent place there. But we deserved probably to be 4 or 5 goals to the good come half time.
Yeah, and we certainly came out the second half and created a hell of a lot more chances as well in that second half. When you think about, when it fell to Oliver and he hit it and it went straight at the goalkeeper. Callum Morrison again gets put through and it shoots. He had a couple of those where he shot, and Dan Jameson, who actually had an okay game apart.
Had a good game.
Yeah, Dan Jameson pulled off a great save for one of his. But, let's talk about Ross McKeever's goal, or Diego McKeever, as we should now call him. What did you make of Ross's goal, Ross?
Well, at the time, I thought we were going to get a penalty, and that's what I was kind of shouting for initially because
It was good. It was definitely a penalty if it had went in.
he did look to be really kind of hardly, really toughly sort of shoved by. I think it was. Why am I forgetting his surname? My goodness, ex Falkirk centre back.
Gregor Buchanan.
Yeah, I don't know why his name just went right in my head there. So yeah, it did look as if Buchanan had put the hands on him. Obviously the pictures, because you can't really tell from the camera angle, can you? It's a bit odd from the camera angle, but from the still pictures that obviously Ian Snedden shared with us, it kind of looks as if he's maybe.
I could see it from the main stand that he'd handled it in, and obviously
I couldn't see it at the time.
Oh, I saw it at the time. I was like, "Oh my word!"
I think I was going too nuts at the ref for not pointing to the spot, I think, for the pen. But
do you think I was like the refs just is almost like the refs just went, "Oh, do you know what? Just have the go." Because if it had been a penalty, it might have been a sending off for Stenny as well. Actually,
yeah, that's true.
Maybe I just think the refs said, "Oh, boys, do you want to just give them the goal, or do you want a man sent off on a penalty?" It's just like that because it was blatant. But I will now know Diego will now be new nickname for Ross McKeever. I think going forward, it was
5 for the season for Ross as well.
Ross, don't start this. Your quest to get, you cannot count friendlies for Ross McKeever. So I'm giving you 3. I'm giving you the 3 goals in the League Cup. We're giving him 27 to go for Ross, and his bid to get to the 30 as Ross Wayne predicts. But yeah, no, the Ross again does what Ross McKeever does: hold up play, movement, and he's there and thereabouts round the box. You know, that was 2 really good strikers' goals yesterday. So good. It was a really good game for Ross McKeever, and hopefully that does his confidence. And then rounding up, we got Liam Henderson. Again, back post, like we said earlier on. Darren Jameson couldn't do anything but basically put it into the net. Really, tried his best to keep it out, but Hendo brilliant at the back post again, and he's just so important at set pieces. Hendo, he's and having Cole back in there, and Cole be looking to get more than he did last season. Obviously had his wonder strike against Alloa, but it was only one headed goal he got last season. So Cole be there and there. Sean Mackey again, like you say, offers that physical presence. Keelan Adams, we've not really seen much of his ability in the air, but round set pieces is going to be really important, especially in this league with the big brutes that are going to be in it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is good to have the height in the defence, but also, as you've said, from an attacking perspective as well, it is really, really good. I thought he took his header really, really well. He's obviously headed it as close to the goal as he could, and you're right, the keeper sort of palmed it kind of in. Loved Big Hendo's celebration on front of the ultras. Love it. Love the big man.
I love the big man. Pirlo, as ever, spraying the ball about as well. I mean, it's when you've got Hendo and Cole at centre half, they kind of offer that. I think Tom's just a bit more Yogi Hughes-ish, right? But I think Hendo and Cole are a bit more kind of ball players. I'm not mocking Tom, but just Tom's a brute. Just gets the job done. But when you got Hendo and Cole, they're real ball players, and they played out from the back really, really well and knocked it about amongst themselves. Obviously, Cole gave away for Finn. Alfie came on just cause, again, he's just such a great option from the bench. I mean, I thought he played really well. He was unlucky to lose his space, but I guess when you say Cal Morrison comes back in automatically, doesn't he? But that's the problem with Alfie, that he's just, he's fighting against Callum for that spot. But you see when he comes off that bench, how much he can change his game. I cannot wait to see him against Dunfermline. I really think, and I can't wait to see him in this league. I think people just won't expect him and won't know what they're getting. I think he's a great option, as is Ethan, when he comes off the bench. Because again, he's in that position as well, predicament that he's fighting against Miller. So he's waiting for his chance. And you go again, Calvin Miller had a really good game yesterday as well.
He did. There was no failures at all yesterday, including the subs, as you've just said. Alfie came on, Ethan Ross.
Michael McKenna showed up really, really well when he came off the bench as well. Unlucky with his chance.
Totally agree, and I think Michael McKenna's going to score some big goals for us this year, and he'll set up a good number as well, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
he's definitely. Ryan Shanley again. He had a really good header, great save from Darren
Oh, what
Jameson.
a
What
header that!
I mean, everything. The ball across,
Yeah.
the header, and it was a great Darren Jameson. What a save from Darren Jameson in the
Mm.
Stennismere goal.
Yeah, no, it really was. It was a sexy cross. I think it was Brad that put the ball
Yeah.
in, and from our position, it just looked as if it was heading to the back of the net, and obviously the keeper did pull off a
Yeah.
pretty good on the line
I
save.
mean, it could have been more than four. Like we were saying, all those chances, and that chance with Dylan Tate with his little feet, and then just a great move from Falkirk, and it falls to
Yeah,
Ethan Ross, and you're just like, oh, just curl it into that top bin, and it just goes over. But no, it was a really accomplished performance, a really professional performance. I thought we looked, Stenny looked miles off it. But as we said, for the League Cup, all these part-time teams are a complete disadvantage. You see some of the score lines coming through from
yeah, they're
across the
heavy.
League Cup, and the part-time teams get absolutely hammered because they're just into their pre-season. Like Craig was saying last week about the trialist situation, and they can't play trialists. They've not got the bodies in that they need yet. So they're running off thin squads in pre-season effectively. So
Yeah.
you saw that, and I thought we were light years ahead of Stenny, and it showed on the park.
It definitely did, and Naismith said that after the game as well. He was very pragmatic about it. He's like, "Listen, it's a different level. We're not going to face anything like Falkirk the rest of the rest of the season. So they'll kind of dust themselves down and do you know what? Hopefully they have a good season in League One.
Oh, what? Hold on a
No,
minute. What
listen,
are you saying
I know we have
here?
a bit, but no, I'm not. I don't hate them or dislike them enough to want them like relegated from a division, but um. I'm not overly fussed whether they win or lose, but if they win, they win. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But I think hopefully they have a reasonable League One season and they stay up from that perspective. But yeah, no, listen, it was all round. As you said, we could have scored double figures yesterday, and I don't think it would have been uh, a horrible scoreline. Well, it would have been a horrible scoreline for Stennismere, but I don't think it would have been an unjust
Yeah.
scoreline from that perspective. And then it kind of set us up for the evening of banter on social media, really,
Oh
didn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you missed that as well, obviously air after our game, there was the initial banter about the Champions League group, and then there was, I think Falkirk admin had put up the sheep thing from The Simpsons, going and then it was ugly ship which was here, and it was like Homer just getting
Out the way,
out the
you.
way. Yeah. And then Ayr had pushed had the sheep pushing Falkirk into the lake. So Falkirk admin, and hats off to you, because it was a wrestling retort that they fired back at Ayr from the Royal Rumble. Now let me explain this to you, Ross, because I don't think you get. Did you get
No, I
it?
didn't. But
You
no,
didn't
other
get
than
it.
the fact that it was slagging it, I didn't get
Right,
it.
okay, so Royal Rumble, right? The rules in the Royal Rumble is you've got to throw people over the top of the rope, right?
Right.
And Ayr were represented by R-Truth, who thought it was a Money in the Bank ladder match. So he brought the ladder into the ring representing Ayr, climbed up to it, realising it wasn't Money in the Bank ladder match, and then was thrown out by Kane,
Right.
who was Falkirk. So
Got you.
basically,
That makes sense now.
there
Yeah,
you
that
go.
does make sense.
I'm,
I
I,
did
I've
wonder what
explained it for everyone, but
yeah.
hats off to, I don't know if it was Adam or Andrew in the media team who pulled that off. There's obviously another wrestling fan. People are saying John's on the admin. No, it was nothing to do with me, but brilliant stuff, lads. Keep the wrestling going. That's what I'll say. And I'll explain it on the podcast for everyone that doesn't get it. There you go. We also met Graham, who is the dad of Holly, who got the armband against Ayr. And
Yes.
we met Holly yesterday, who we came over to say thanks very much for the armband, and she was just still beaming it, and she was loving the fact she was a social media star. So it was lovely to meet Holly yesterday.
She was. It was great to see her because obviously I know we both said it. It's one of our most favourite sort of handovers with how excited she was even before Brad gave her the armband, like bouncing up and down on the TV cameras and stuff like that. So it was really nice to meet her yesterday. She is still buzzing, and it sounds like the actual handover from yesterday for wee Lyle Martin has got a Falkirk fan for life there
I
potentially as
mean,
well. That was a nice
yeah,
handover too, wasn't it?
Lyle's dad, Billy, sent us a picture, and bless him, the wee guy fell asleep with the armband on last night. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
There you go. Brilliant. Love it.
We've not even done that yet.
I know, I know. So no, all in all, top of the group in the end, which was great, and then we're going into the draw, which will be happening very, very soon. But no, and it was great. John McGuinn, we won't play the interview because you probably watched it. We'll start getting into the interviews and stuff when we get back to the league. But he actually came out afterwards, said he was really happy. I was like, John McGuinn.
He was exceptionally happy, but was he really happy to do with the performance? But he's also saw the pound size potentially as well.
Well, that does maybe that as well. Go back to the chat with Jamie, but I did love how he basically referenced Dennis Muir as Larbert, obviously because
banter when
he's obviously because all the steady supporters referred to us as Grangemouth, and the fact he said that they all went back to Larbert. Well done, John. Absolutely fantastic. So I don't know if he intentionally did it. I think he's intentionally done it, but that's great banter for John if he's intentionally done it. So
yeah. He does have that side to him, though.
Yeah, you love it.
He does have that side to him, doesn't he?
Love it. So that's it for the League Cup campaign. Into the next round, we'll find out just in a minute who we've got. And if you want to be a guest pundit from next week, with the guest pundits are back, drop us a line. Please do that. pundit@falkirkdaft.co.uk. Slide into the DMs or Twitter on Facebook as well. So do that and hopefully speak to you next week.
This is Falkirk Daft.
With Behind the Wall, we're navy blue. Are you?
So every week in Falkirk Daft, we like to preview the next again game, and we're just talking off earlier to David from the Spiders Web Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, David. We're just saying that going back into the championships this season, there's a lot more podcasts out there, so it's going to be really great to speak to the podcasters out there to look ahead to the game. So thanks very much for joining us on Falkirk Daft. I really, really appreciate it. But let's talk Queen's Park. I mean, that's your third season in the championship now, isn't it?
Yeah, by the skin of our teeth. Last season, yeah, we stayed up. We've helped contribute to Inverness's downfall in a couple of different ways, actually. I'm sure we'll maybe mention that later on. But yeah, we're still here. If you guys are needing somebody to show you around and show you where to put your sand shoes now that you're back up in one of the big leagues, just give us a shout. More than happy to help out.
Excellent.
I know it's been a long time coming, a long time coming. I mean, we go back to Queen's Park. Let's not talk about what happened when back when you were down in League One. We'll just avoid that whole chat about it.
I was ready to mention it if you wanted to. I mean, I was going to leave it to you. No, okay, we'll move on, Kyle. Yeah, we obviously we skipped past you there, which was a surprise at the time. Obviously, we finished fourth in that season, and the joy of the playoffs. Last year we managed to avoid them the year before when we got so close to winning the league, and obviously just picked by Dundee. We obviously experienced the bad side of the playoffs by getting thrown about by Partick Thistle there, but that League One campaign, we were incredibly fortunate when things changed and the new manager, obviously Owen Coyle, came in at that point and just at the right time really spurred us on. I will say, for all that it is good to have you can't help but have a little laugh at somebody else's misfortunes in Scottish football. It's one of the best things about Scottish football, let's be honest. It has been long overdue for Falkirk to kind of get their act together, and I mean, you guys did it in style last season, so it'll be very interesting to see how you guys get on in this season in the Championship again. Yeah, and you obviously avoided the playoffs last season. Inverness, at their detriment, of end up, they were beating off Hamilton, and they've ended up down in there in a absolute perilous position now. With when you look at what's happening up there and the potential takeover that's about to happen as well. Yeah, they definitely are. It doesn't help that we seem to have raided 3 or 4 of their best players in the last 6 months as well. So it's been an incredible benefit to us. Both on the park, Sean Welsh and Killian Sheridan last season helped us avoid the playoff and send Inverness down there. And we only just signed Nicola Ujder from them, but by all accounts, he seems like a pretty good young centre-back. Roddy McGregor's also came from them. Yeah. He's a young midfielder, but he's had an incredible start to the League Cup. His time at Queen's Park, and obviously with the 4 League Cup group games, he's been fantastic there. So he already looks like he's going to be an incredible signing. I mean, looking at your League Cup campaign, David, I mean, it's been a really, really good run for Queen's Park in there. We were talking about, how the full-time teams are miles ahead of the part-time teams at this stage in the season just because of, the trialist issue, the fact that they've not got the squads together the pre-season, we're at it. But, 5-0, 4-0 and 6-0, well-deserved we'll avoid the Hibs match when you got beat 5-1, but against the teams that you should be beating, you've beaten them in style. Yeah, we definitely have, and it does make that Hibs game all the more surprising, to be perfectly honest, because, well, that game was on Premier Sports. If anybody had the misfortune of watching it, I did from the stand, but that day we didn't look like we'd ever played a game of football before in our lives. And yet, then you look at the other three games, and we scored 14, 15 goals in those three
Mm.
games overall. So it was
Yeah.
quite incredible turnaround. You could look at maybe how Callum Davidson set us up in that game versus playing against the part-time and the lower league teams, but overall, it's a positive group campaign. It's the first time we've made it out the group stage since that was introduced in 16-17 season, wasn't it? Around about then. So it's the first time we've ever made it out of the group, which is a great achievement for this team. It's a good start to the season. It does help alleviate some concerns that we do have. All the fans will have about our squad and how we're going to go into this season. A good campaign and three really, really good performances. It certainly helps going forward, especially with that first game on Friday night live on BBC Scotland.
Yes, and it is an exciting game. It is. We've obviously just been talking about it just before you came on as well, David. It's obviously live on TV. There should be about 5,500 people at the game. Hopefully the weather will be decent as well. That would be a start. But it's two teams that haven't faced each other obviously in a while. Well, with the exception of the cup game, we're not a regular face-off. What can Falkirk fans expect from Queen's Park, especially with a decent turnover in players this summer?
Yeah, so last time that we played Falkirk, it was when we were still, well, it was the beginning of the end of the Dutch Revolution at Queen's Park, where we were, that was what, middle October, something like that, wasn't it? And we were in the middle of it ended up being a 4.5 month winless run in all competitions
Wow.
for Queen's Park when we were under Robin Veldman. But a month or so afterwards, he left, the director of football left. Under them, it was this passing style of football. It was all about working the percentages, spreadsheet football, if we're going to be a rather cruel to it, is basically what it was. And the way of playing just did not set us up. Of course, it didn't help the fact that Falkirk were absolutely flying at that point and obviously continued to fly the entire season. But yeah, we obviously did not go into that game. We did not do ourselves any favours at all. Since Callum Davidson's came in, first things first, he's made us so much better at the back. There's been no more of the just knocking it around, passing it around for the sake of it, just trying things that don't really go anywhere. Everything has a purpose. Everybody knows their role and knows exactly what they've got to be doing in it. So under Callum Davidson for Queen's Park this season going forward, I'm expecting everybody to be well drilled. Everybody knows what they have to do. Players are getting the chance to play to their strengths, whereas before we were, for example, like asking centre backs to be a lot more on the ball when they just perhaps they simply were not able to do so for their skill set. Everybody's doing what they do best. Everybody's working together. Everybody's fighting for this same cause finally for Queen's Park. And I would expect us to, certainly if you look at these League Cup games, I think we could be going back to the Owen Coyle era of Queen's Park where if you score three, we're going to score four. I think that might be what it's going to have to be.
Yeah. You talk about defence here. When I'm looking at your kind of ins and outs there, David, there's quite a few players that have went out that I thought might have been staying when you referred to Killian Sheridan there. Danny Wilson left the club there as well just during the week. And obviously, in the big one for you, Rory Payton going to Port Vale for an undisclosed fee. How big a losses are these players to Queen's Park?
Yeah, they are going to be massive, and that's where one of the biggest concerns for Queen's Park fans right now is, and it is in our squad. We've lost some massive players, some really important players that we just don't seem to have replaced right now. Obviously, as I say, Ujdor has come in from Inverness. We haven't seen him play yet, but he should be a good centre back, so he helps fill one of the gaps there. You could perhaps say that he replaces Danny Wilson, but earlier in the transfer window, we also sold Alex Bannon, who's a 20-year-old centre half. He went to Burton Albion for again an undisclosed fee, which is we seem to be struggling at centre back. We've also lost Charlie Fox. He got injured when we played a friendly against Celtic 2 weeks ago, I think now. It has never been officially declared, but you take one look at what happened. He's done his ACL, so he's going to be done for the season. So we're missing three centre halves from last season. We brought one in. When you look at the game we played against Celtic there, we were playing Cammy Kerr at centre back, and he's traditionally a full back. And we were also playing a young boy at Queen's Park, Zach Mockin. He again is a right back, a wing back. He was playing centre back as well. So we're clearly struggling there. That is a concern as well. The top end of the park, yeah, losing Peyton's massive. His goals last season you could argue single-handedly kept us up. 20, I think it was over 20 goals in all competitions in a team that was struggling for 4 or 5 months of the year. He was massive in that team. Zach Rudden has started well. He's only got one goal to show for his contribution so far, which should or would perhaps maybe raise concerns to people that haven't watched the games. If you're we're scoring 15 goals in a group, the striker's only scoring one, but he's done a lot more on the park that just doesn't obviously show up there. He was bringing in these midfielders. The space that he creates was allowing guys like Roddy McGregor, Jack Turner, and of course Dom Thomas to chip in with the goals. So yeah, we are still a little bit light, certainly at the back and up front, but I feel like our midfield, and especially guys like Dom Thomas that will play in just behind the striker, it could be bias, it could be whatever you want to call it, it could be stupidity. I do believe that our midfield could be one of the strongest in the league with the players that we have. And when you have guys like Dom Thomas, if they show up on the day, Queen's Park are very likely gonna win on the day. So having a guy like him fit is going to be incredibly important this season. There's maybe still a little bit to add either side of him.
Yeah, Dom Thomas is such an important player for Queens, and I'm amazed. The Queens have held on to him, because I think he's, no offence to Queens, but I think he's a step and a grade above that as a Premier League player in there. Because anytime I see him, I'm always really impressed by him. But as you say, Zach Rudden was a good get, as was Cammy Kerr. I mean, it just goes. It's a statement of intent against from Queens Park, of signing those boys of that ability.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. We need players like that. We need somebody like Cammy Kerr. He's still only 28, but he's played about nearly 300 professional games or something like that, I think, over these teams, and of course now joining Queen's Park as well. So a wealth of experience there. It's somebody that you definitely need in the team. Yeah, sometimes you're going to need to go up a league and maybe try and get somebody down to help out, especially when we are still trying to bleed in a number of youngsters into the first team. You need a bit of experience beside them to help them and show them along, teach them a thing or two on the way as well. Obviously, for years, ever since Queen's Park have become the professional Queen's Park, it's been Gretna this, Gretna that, etc., etc. I mean, I would ask anybody to have a look at the signings that we've made this season, and you mentioned it as well. Losing the likes of Payton as well for an undisclosed fee. We're clearly not doing a great right now, because if you're replacing, and I've been a fan of Zach Rudden so far, but when you're replacing a guy like Rudy Payton, we're selling him for undisclosed fee, it's 6 figures minimum, whatever it is, to go and bring somebody in on a free on the other side. We're clearly not doing that. It's certainly been a little bit overblown. Maybe this season, maybe people will start to see that it's slightly different under Callum Davison, definitely, but yeah, I would, when it looks at the signings, when it looks at the squad, I think I would still like to go and see us get, I think we do need one more big name. I don't know what you would class as a big name right now, but I think we need one more properly experienced player to come in, whether that is up front at defence, I'm not sure. I'd like to see that before we maybe start adding in a couple more youngsters to round out the transfer window.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you say Gretna, but Willie Hawhay is obviously Queen's Park owner, and by the way, he's got a few fair ball, but I think you'll be. I don't think there's any chance of a Gretna.
He does, and while I will say, so technically speaking, he is not the owner. He is kind of getting away with being some kind of, I think the way that the club like to refer to it is a benefactor when it comes to the club accounts. So he's not technically the owner. However, it's possibly one of the worst kept secrets in Scottish football that he is the man that is financing Queen's Park at this moment in time. It certainly does not help with people wanting to say things like Gretna and stuff, but as you say, he is a man with a pretty deep back pocket, and if he really wanted us to be Gretna, we could be up in we could be in the Premier League by now and signing stupid players.
I mean, obviously you put a lot of investment into the youth academy as well. That's, I think did you just get elite status? Am I right in saying?
Yeah, that happened. I want to say that happened at the beginning of last season. It may have been slightly earlier than that. I don't recall. It certainly still happened while Marion Bucher and Leanne Dempster were still at the club. So that would have been at least 12 months ago, maybe about 18 months. So we do have the elite status. So the under 18s are at that elite academy status. So that's like Friday night games that they play and things. Obviously, there's a lot more that comes with that. So that is a big thing to maintain. And I think that is one of the key things that,
I mean, Queen's Park traditionally, that's what it was, wasn't it? I mean, that was bringing through those players and them going on.
It has been, yeah. And obviously this new age of your professional Queen's Park where there is money involved. they have at least managed, or they have done their best to stick to that and to continue to promote players. There are a few that are around the first team right now. I say Alex Bannon is one that obviously was sold in the summer. He's came through from Queen's Park since I think he was like 9 years old. So to have sold him on again, undisclosed fee, six figures, don't obviously know, but to do that is a great sign there. Zach Mawkins involved in the first team last season. Liam McLeish is a young striker that's been involved quite a bit as well. And there's a few others that are on the fringes, getting a few appearances here and there. So it's a good thing to see. It's something that I think every football fan wants to see, isn't it? That you see your own play, young boys coming through your club at the youth stage and going up and helping to contribute on the pitch or off the pitch by being sold for money. And it looks like we're still doing that, and fingers crossed that continues.
David, that I think for us, because obviously that is a real interesting sort of take on it, because you do only hear the snippets that's out there on social media and the narrative that's probably driven elsewhere, everyone bar Queen's Park. Sticking with the sort of hot topic though is obviously the stadium situation. So, and it is a bit of an elephant in the room. But what is the current deal? So obviously Rangers are going to be playing at Hampden for a period of time. We don't know how long for, right? In terms of Queen's Park, then, so you if I'm reading it right, you were playing at Hampden until September. Sorry, Lesser Hampden until September, and then moving back to Hampden. Is this a long-term situation with the SFA then?
It's honestly don't know. It's quite an incredible situation where it has been coming into this season, even before the club sort of officially announced, yes, we will be going back to Hampden for this season. There was still the talk of, what's happening with Lesser Hampden, or the City Stadium as it's now called, of course. I'll keep calling it Lesser. It's a whole long running debacle, which, I mean, I can go into and I can talk about the Rangers situation. Everything that I say is, of course, you have to consider the fact that this is a situation of Queen's Park's own doing by butchering Lesser Hampden to it is now what it is, as it's built. Anybody that walks past it, any Falkirk fan, any fan in the Championship, anybody goes to Scotland games will walk past that and go, what are they doing? What is that? That's rubbish. That's not fit for purpose. I can assure you that anything that anybody says about Lesser Hampden, any Queen's Park fan has said 10 times worse and 10 times more. Honestly, it's personally myself, it is the worst stadium in Scotland. I know a lot of people look at Edinburgh City, but Edinburgh City don't own Meadowbank, so they don't really have a lot of say maybe over what goes on there. That is Queen's Park's, and to have done what we've done there is honestly, it's utterly shambolic. That said, this Hampden situation and Rangers and what it means with the SFA, Rangers being able to come in and seemingly, despite the fact we already had an agreement at Hampden, for Rangers to seemingly come in and just go, no, okay, we're going to take over. Well, we can all say what we think about Rangers and Celtic and Scottish football. It certainly seems like that's another example of it, where the tabloid media report that Queen's Park have ripped up their own agreement in order to facilitate Rangers. If that is true, I would love to know what that means for Queen's Park. Because surely you're getting, there's going to be money getting handed over to
at the very least.
At the very least, I hope so. I mean, I suppose if that is the case, fans aren't going to be told money. You're not going to be told figures. I understand that. But see, at the very least, to acknowledge that this situation has happened and that there is an agreement with Rangers or the SFA or something, I would love to know that, because to me, my view of it is that, of course, it was Willie Hockey that is involved with the SFA, contributed money towards buying Hampden from Queen's Park. And I personally believe that I think that the reason that we've been kind of shunted to the side here is it may well have been a gentleman's agreement in terms of using Hampden for Queen's Park. Right. And of course, then when Rangers come in and go, well, actually, we would like an actual agreement, it turns out we maybe didn't have anything written down. I don't know if that is me completely speculating. It's the way that I believe that it may have gone down, purely because of knowing how things have gone at Queen's Park.
Yeah, because I think it's a real forgotten bit in the Rangers situation that they found themselves in, that Queen's Park are being affected by this, and no one seems to be speaking about the Queen's Park side of things, which I find phenomenal, because going by rumours, going by conjecture of what's happening over at Ibrox is, there's talk of them, being at Hampden for certainly longer than what is predicted at the moment.
Well, they're currently I don't know exactly what it is they're doing at Ibrox myself, to be honest, but they're obviously doing some kind of construction there. Um, you don't have to tell Queen's Park fans that construction projects overrun and there's delays and there's additional costs because, of course, it took about 3.5 years to make a 900-seater stand at Lesser Hampden. So we know fine well that that is what happens. And for everybody to seemingly be believing, oh, yeah, this is just until September, don't worry about it. I'd like to think that behind the scenes, they are already beginning to look at what's going to happen if this runs on, and because there are some home games now, they're not a lot, I will say that, but there are, I believe, there's 2 in October, 2 in November, and 1 in December, where both Queens Park and Rangers are due to be at home. Now, if that's the case, what does that mean for us, especially when we're meant to be at Hampden? We were always meant to start the season at Lesser Hampden because Hampden was supposed to be getting relayed following the concerts over the summer. Obviously, now Rangers will be at Hampden, so I don't quite know what's happening there. Our home game against Livingston has been moved from the Saturday to the Friday at Lesser to allow Hampden to get prepared for Rangers coming up on the Saturday because they've got, I think, European games either side. So, yeah, straight away we've been affected by one of our games at Lesser Hampden. And potentially, if this does overrun, yes, coming to October, November, especially, where both of our home games that month clash with Rangers. I don't know. I mean, if we get shunted to Friday night football or Sunday, I mean, I would imagine that what would happen is we'd move to Friday, Rangers would move to Sunday. But then you're going to look at 2 games a weekend in October and November. You're in Scotland. The weather's not guaranteed at any time. Around about that time, there's going to be Scotland games as well. You know, how is that going to affect Hampden in general? What is going to happen there? It really does just set itself up for disaster if this does overrun.
Really
Guys, just a bit of breaking news. Obviously, the draw has just started for the Sports
of
Cup.
course.
So why don't we have a look at this while we're in mid?
Oh yeah, well we're all in it together, so let's find out.
We're all in it.
A live reaction.
Oh, Queen's Park's draw's just come out.
Who's that for? You might be slightly ahead of me on these updates. Oh,
Aberdeen away for Queen's Park.
you know what? I'll take that as that is somewhere that we don't go very often. I couldn't. Well, I mean, obviously, very famous result against Aberdeen a number of years ago as we were amateurs and they were in the top flight, putting them out in penalties in the cup as well. So that must have been the last time we played Aberdeen. I will take a wee trip to Pittodrie. I'm not too. Hang on, Falkirk at home is the next one. Who's number 3? Hearts.
Oh,
Jambo's at home.
I did, you know, for money wise, I'd have preferred that it was at Tynecastle just for the money and getting an extra
and the day out.
Yeah, and the day out as well.
And the day out. But Hearts at home's that's a good tie.
Hearts at home's a good tie. Aberdeen away. I mean, obviously they've got a new manager and all that now. I can't say I know too much about what they're up to right now, but in terms of the day out, I guess a thumbs up from me, and I'll take it from there.
Well, there you go. Dundee versus Airdrie is tie 5. The 2 ties before we got to Falkirk was there. Celtic are taking on Hibs. Dundee United versus St Mirren. Obviously, you'll know all about this because we're doing this live just now, but the podcast doesn't come out until Monday, so everyone will have read this. So I'm just like trying to pretend I'm like some sort of Jim Delahunt type doing the draw here, but you'll know all this already. Listen, so there you go. Hearts. Yeah. We'll talk about that just in a minute, Ross. But before you go, David, and reflect upon the Aberdeen draw with your mates, predictions for Friday night. What way do you think the game will go?
Obviously, from my knowledge of Falkirk, you are a team that like to attack with speed, attack with pace, and I do think that could potentially cause issues for us. We tend to be this back three. Callum Davison likes to call it a back three. It's a back 5. I don't know how that will affect us, and we're not necessarily the quickest at the back. So I feel like if maybe we're attacking, it could be a counter-attacking game, back and forth, back and forth. I think starting the league campaign, you never want to start with a loss. I would take a point away to Falkirk, start the season, we kind of find our feet, you know, we see how Falkirk do, obviously coming up. We see how some of our new signings bear in as well. I would like to take an entertaining 2-all draw. Of course, my heart will say it's going to be like 5-0 Queens again. But nah, I tell you what, I'd be happy with a point, and we see how this league campaign goes. But very much looking forward to it starting back.
It's going to be very much 2 teams kind of feeling out each other and trying to get, you know, because we haven't played each other, and so I'm sure both teams have been watched across the League Cup campaign by the respective teams. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it because Queen's Park, as you say, play a good brand of football. Callum Davidson always plays a good brand of football. So, however, you have given me hope with your centre half issues at the moment. We're having our own centre half issues.
Well, I was going to say, I think you have a wee bit of a crisis as well, so maybe that's why a 2-2 or something like that. There maybe plenty of goals
bad news
in
for
it.
you is that our captain came back in yesterday and played 70 minutes. So Cole Donaldson's back, so he'll be back for Friday. I suspect he'll be starting. What's your prediction for the score then, David?
As I say, let me be fair while I'm here. Obviously, if you were to listen to when we do our podcast probably tomorrow evening, I'll probably say something like 4-0 Queens. But let me be fair here. Let me say a nice, entertaining 2-2 draw, and we both get started with a point, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, Ross, what about you?
I agree with David. I think it'll be a tighter game. I don't think either team will go in and score 3 or 4 goals. But I think Falkirk might edge this one without being at home. So I'm going to say 2-1 Bairns.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of goals looking at the League Cup campaign and the defensive issues at both. I think I'm going to go for 3-2 Falkirk. I just think with the flag coming out, the stadium at capacity, we're expecting over 5,000 supporters to come along on Friday. I think I'm predicting a high scoring 3-2 win for Falkirk. But yeah, we'll wait and see. You'll be making it down to the game yourself, David?
I will indeed, yes. I'm looking forward to it. Even though it's on the telly, I say first game of the season, and I do quite like the Friday night football. I think it, especially we went on the TV too often last season, so getting those Friday night games is a nice little change sometimes. And as I say, there's no better way to start the season than a away day.
Do you know what? I'm thoroughly looking forward to the Friday night games because obviously before we were in Alba last season, we had a lot of Alba games last season because of the size of the club. So, it was a Saturday night and that was a long day. So some of the days we did on Saturdays, Jesus, by the time you got to the football, you're in some state. But a few pints after work, walking down to the ground on the Friday, and then you know what? It's quite nice. You've got the rest of the weekend pretty much clear, so it's you get a wee bonus Saturday out of it as well. So we're really looking forward to it. If you're coming to the game, David, come down behind the wall. We'll get you a pint for your time today. So pop down. We'll be in there from 5 o'clock. So we'll maybe see you there.
Brilliant. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys.
Superb. All right. David Blair from Spider's Web Podcast. Thanks for joining us on Falkirk Daft. And let's reflect on the draw now, Ross.
This is Falkirk Daft.
With Behind the Wall, we're navy blue. Are you?
So, we just spoke to David there, and during that, we got the League Cup draw. So, Hearts at home, Ross. That's an exciting one, isn't it?
It's an exciting one. I think that might be a TV one as well. Although, actually, I've not looked at the rest.
I'm looking down at the draws because I think they do 3 of the games. I might be wrong. It might be 4, but 3 of the games. They'll take Rangers and they'll take Celtic. So it'll be one. I'll be another one because they'll always take Celtic.
Who are Rangers playing?
But Celtic and Rangers are both at home. So Celtic, Hibs, Rangers have got St Johnstone. But with the Hampden factor, I think they'll take the Rangers game because a lot of Rangers supporters might. So they'll take Celtic and they'll take Rangers because they always do. They always do. So at the end, you've got the choice, I guess. If it is 3 games, Dundee United versus St Mirren, which are, most of them are all Premiership ties. Aberdeen versus Queen's Park will be discussed there. Dundee versus Airdrie, Motherwell versus Kilmarnock, and the Spartans at home to Ross County. So they're not going to. So there's a good chance with Hearts. Obviously Hearts going to be limited in the amount of supporters they can get into the North Stand. So there's a good chance that they might actually put our game on the telly, and it's potential shock quality there. First time
potentially
played. You got the John McGlynn backstory there as well as former manager of Hearts, so you've got all that kind of going for you. So you never know, they might pick us, and it would be good for the club. Certainly, we're going to, that'll be a sellout. That'll be
100%.
That'll be a sellout for that game. But you're looking, as we say, and we spoke to Jamie, for that TV money as well. If we haven't got Celtic or Rangers at Ibrox or Celtic Park, you'll be looking for the TV money. And we've got half a chance against Hearts, you know what I mean? They're obviously a very, very good footballing side. And with Lauren Shanko and Scotland international striker coming up against us. But there's always a chance, always a chance. And at home, you always fancy us,
You do. And that is a big thing, being at home, because we'll have sold out Ken McAllister stand. I'm pretty certain the main stand will be as sold out as can be as well, if not nearly sold out. And then obviously, as you're saying, there'll be a full away end, so a tremendous atmosphere in the ground. Hopefully on TV for that extra bit of money into the coffers too. But we can give them a real good game. Hearts are a good team. They are a good team.
You
My
do you
the
do know what
immediate
this
worry
means
is
though.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
It means we're going to have to get you and Cameron on this
I know.
podcast to
Yeah.
discuss it. Oh,
I knew
God,
exactly that's what you were going to
oh,
say as well because I was thinking
Jesus.
into it.
All right, okay. Well, but looking forward to that. So I don't the draw we do. Is it the weekend begin the 17th of August?
It's the weekend of the 17th. Now, the only thing that might
Oh,
make
I'm at a
us
festival on the Saturday, so I hope the game gets moved to a TV game.
it depends a couple of things. One, will it be moved for TV? The second thing is, now I don't know when Hearts play their European games, but if Hearts are playing Europe, then it
True,
potentially could
to
be a
Sunday.
Sunday. But I don't. I'm not close. We'll need to have a look and see.
This time next week on Falkirk Daft, when we're looking back at the Queen's Park game, we'll have a detailed, we'll know exactly what's happening with it. I really hope it's not the Saturday because I'm at a festival in Edinburgh, ironically, that day. So I really hope it's not the Saturday. Or I'm going to be watching Ocean Coliseum checking updates from my phone. Oh no. Right, okay, we'll wait and find out what happens with that. But yeah, great. Looking forward to that. And like I say, that's a good, sellout stadium, money in the coffers, and hopefully on telly to add to that as well. So fingers crossed for that. Right, that's it for this week's Folk at Daft End. A packed episode. Thanks very much to Jamie Swinney for coming on, and also to David from Spider's Nest podcast. Look ahead to the Queen's Park game on Friday, Flag Day down at the stadium. Get yourself down there if you haven't got a ticket already. As we said, we'll be in behind the wall from about 5, getting a couple of beers. We'll also be on a tent. I'll be on something more exotic than that. But yeah, pop down if you're about. I'll pop down if you're about. We'd love to get a drink with you, a bit of gab as well. But yeah, no, looking forward to it. It's the league campaign starts, and it's been great. The League Cup, I've thoroughly enjoyed the League Cup. I think we've looked really, really good, and we've not missed the beat in terms of what we saw last season. So when you looked at those games, even the defeat against Ayr, we looked really, really good. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this season. I think I think I'd like to, let's have a wee discussion now, Ross, actually, about who we think is going to be the contenders. Jamie said the budgeted for 5th. See 5th for me, I'm happy with that. See, I'd love to get the playoffs, and I'd love the chance of the playoffs, but 5th for me, I think establishing yourself back in the championship and then kicking on, grow exponentially. But for me, finishing 5th, I think would be a really good season for Falkirk.
Well, based on the fact that we're budgeted for that, I hope it is that as a minimum. Because obviously, if it's worse than that, then there's a money gap, right? So that's one thing. In terms of where I'd like and where I think we will be, I think our consistency will see us start off really, really strongly. I think we'll have a brilliant quarter one, and I wouldn't be shocked if we're in the top 4 in the first quarter. If we can then maintain that, brilliant. But I think we'll float between the playoffs and that 5th place. Don't get me wrong, I've not seen anything really apart from highlights of Wraith and Partick Thistle and what have you. I don't see them looking absolutely fantastic that they're going to steamroll the league. I don't see it because I've not seen it from anyone yet. But the first quarter, I think, will tell us quite a bit about how we're going to do.
I think we saw what Ayr and what they've done in the transfer market. Ayr will be there or thereabouts. Wraith Rovers, they've rolled the dice pretty much, I would say, as well. Livingston, I thought they would plunge down, but they've had a really good go in that League Cup. And you know what? They've looks like they've signed all right. So they'll, I don't think you can discount them. Partick Thistle, Airdrie, as long as they've got Rhys McCabe keeps that, that club going. And, they played, I watched the game against Aberdeen. They're a very good footballing side, Airdrie. Very, very good footballing side. Dunfermline are, seems to be in all sorts of trouble over there at the moment. They've, like us, they're in a position when they've only signed 4 players. That keeper fiasco during the week where, they've been fined for that.
And even Mehmet, who's obviously an ex-Falkirk player, he's been in goals for every cup game. And I saw the social media post by Dunfermline fans saying they would rather just play any man, or indeed the unregistered goalie, instead of Mehmet. So obviously Mehmet's confidence must be shot to shit just now as well with how they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the championship could. Anyone could win it. Anyone could go down. It's Hamilton. I think we've maybe got a bit of a buffer in potentially Hamilton. And don't say that Hamilton. I think it's going to be the tightest league in Scotland. I think anyone can beat anyone in that league.
I think
it's going to be really exciting.
I think anyone probably can beat anyone, but I don't know if there's going to be many teams, if any, that will go on a massive run. Like, obviously, we hope it's us, right? I'm not saying it's going to be.
I think you're the same. I don't think anyone will go on that massive run. I don't think there's going to be a team winning it by 10, 12 points. I think everything is going to go down to that last game for the playoffs, because we saw that in the championship pretty much. It turned into a two-horse race between Wraith and Dundee United, but I think it's going to be even tight. I think anywhere in that top 5 could go on to playoffs, win the league. Totally. In that bottom 5, it's going to be a bit of a dogfight down there. Yeah. We just hope that Falkirk aren't involved down that side of things, and I don't think we will be.
I don't think we will either. I think, for me, looking at it just now, and from what I've seen so far, I think the bottom 3 or 4 teams are probably going to be your Mortons, your Hamilton, Dunfermline. I think. Not sure about Airdrie. Not sure about Airdrie at all.
It depends what I think. It really depends what happens to Rhys McCabe. I think the next job that comes up in the Premier League, whether it's a Motherwell, whether it's a St Johnstone, it's his job to take. Really, I would think teams can't be ignoring the job he's done at Airdrie. It's been let's take our hat off to him, because it's been a great job that he's done there.
He has done. And see if James McPake continues to be a wanted man in Fife. You could see Dunfermline having a go at as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, that would be a move. I think that would be on the cards. But it's all to play for. Really looking forward to it.
Exciting, though.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're still excited 6 months down the line. We're not going, for fuck's sake, I can't believe we've just been beaten off Morton. But no, really looking forward to the season, and it all kicks off this Friday at the Falkirk Stadium. Remember, if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we're close to 1,000. So please get on there, subscribe to the YouTube. You get to watch us as well as listen to us if you listen to the audio version. But continue to listen to the audio version, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Insta as well for all the Falkirk Daft banter, and you can obviously buy merch. Still need to put up a link for that on our socials. Get kitted out for the new season, merch.falkirk.daft.co.uk, easy for me to say, and get in touch anytime you want. If you want to sponsor the show, we've got our headline sponsors, so still the opportunity for you to get your company, business mentioned on this show, and we'll sell it to like sand to the Alps. So get on here, drop us a line, john@falkirkdaft.co.uk or ross@falkirkdaft.co.uk, or just grab us when we're in the pub or in the stadium. We'd love to have a chat with you there as well. Right, Friday night, here we go, 24-25, I'm excited, let's go.
3 words: expect unexpected.